Uh-huh. That's the thing I thought when I saw you this morning.
Morning. Good morning. Welcome to Friday. If you are watching, do say hello in the comments. And welcome to Friday again. More Fridays. Not many Fridays till Christmas. Just saying. Welcome to my little tiny piece of southeast England. It's raining. Probably the second tiniest bit of rain we've had in the last, 2 months, something like that. The garden is heaving a great sigh of relief. So welcome to a damp southeast England, Hampshire, wherever I am, part of the country. Good morning, Janet. Good morning, Claire. It always takes a little while for the comments to ping up on my screen, so I do talk to myself for the first little while. I'm quite happy talking to myself anyway, so yeah, it's not a problem. Not a problem. I'm going to move a bit closer to the screen. So, welcome to Friday and another little chat. Good morning, husband. I think the comments are a little bit slow this morning. Good morning, Lani. Good morning, Tess. Tess has sunshine in Derbyshire. Beautiful part of the country. Went there when I was much younger. Good morning, Rachel. Good morning, Sue. See, they're all coming in at once now. Good morning, Sue. Good morning, Jay from Misley, Cornwall. Yeah, that's what it's like here. Janet's hoping for rain. We'll send some your way. Sue says, morning, Pete and Eric. Pete is working. Eric is fast asleep. Good morning, Helen. Good morning, Karen. Angela says, good morning from a very soggy France. It's been raining for several days here now. Much needed by Air Garden. Yes, Air Garden is definitely heaving a sigh of relief. Good morning, Luna. Good morning, Deborah. Welcome, everyone. I look quite lopsided today. Not sure what that's all about. Ever had one of those weeks? Yeah. Good morning, Andrea. Good morning, Christine. Good morning, Lisa. Sue has beautiful weather in Somerset, blue sky and lovely and cool. Excellent. That's nice weather to have. So welcome to everyone. Last week we talked about casting the circle, or raising the hedge, as I now want to call it, because I think that's just nice. So I thought this week we would move on to the next step and talk about calling in the quarters, or whatever term you use for it, or however you use it. Obviously, as we go along, do what we always do. If you've got any thoughts, questions, comments, insights, do chuck them in the comments and we'll get them up on the screen. Sharing our knowledge and experience and wisdom with each other.
Do I have that?
Yeah, you don't need to join in, you're fine.
Right.
Good evening, Sephora from the dark side. Good morning, Karen. Beautiful sunshine, cool breeze, perfect morning, fantastic. Good morning, Jane. Good morning, Nita, from our last day of holiday in Glastonbury. Hot sun outside. Hope you have had a fantastic holiday. Have a very good last day of it. Holidays. What are they? Did we have one of those? I can't remember. Can't remember. Strange thing. Actually, we had a staycation last year, the year before. One of the best holidays we've ever had, actually. Brilliant fun. Anyway, so Sephora, it is not persistently raining. It's raining at the moment. It's light drizzle down here in Hampshire, but that's only the second rain we've had in 2 months. We had a bit of rain a couple of days ago. That was it. The garden is really struggling. Good morning, Deb. Love your top. Thank you. It does look a little bit lopsided. It's not really. Perhaps I'm lopsided. I feel a bit lopsided.
Convenient you mentioned it.
Good morning, Helen. Good morning, Cos Biker Chick. Yeah, I was once, Cos. I was once. Been to more Harley Davidson rallies than you can shake a stick at. Good morning, Sharon. Good morning, everyone. So yes, as I say, if you've got any thoughts or comments, questions, ideas, chuck them in the comments and we will go with flow and see where it takes us. Talking about calling the quarters today. Sue says, if you look at the shelves behind you, they are a little slanty. I think it's me that's wonky. Yeah, I think you're right, Sue. I think the camera is a bit wonky. We'll stick with wonky. We like wonky. Good morning, Christine. Yeah, Sephora says my camera angle looks lopsided. I'll sort it out later. We'll stick with lopsided for today. Good morning, Maria. Hope you're drier than you were when Maria had flooding. Cos says we're all wonky. We are. Best way to be. Anyway, I'm really today. But there you go. It's been a long week. Calling in the quarters, calling in the elements, calling the guardians of the watchtowers, calling the elementals. What do you call it? Anybody got anything particular that they call it? Sephora says new glasses. Yes, new glasses. Because I spend so much time on the computer, I'm starting to struggle. So I went to the optician with wearing my usual varifocals, and she said, how far away is your computer from you? And I said, oh, about here. So after she told me off, my computer is now arm's distance away, like it should be, and I have proper computer glasses on. It is a whole new world out there. I look like I can see things without squinting at them. So I can see things. Cause calling quarters. Yeah, I think that seems to be the general term for it. Calling in the quarters. Guardians of the Watchtowers is quite a Wiccan term for it. No right or wrong here. Whatever you want to call it. Good morning, Charlie. Tends to follow the casting of the circle, but essentially we're calling upon the 4 elements, 4 of the 5 elements, if you want to be really picky. The 4 directions, the 4 compass directions to join us in ritual, to lend us their power, to lend us their energy, and to provide protection and all the other characteristics that they bring with them. Sephora says you're getting, like me, glasses for every activity. I had normal varifocals, which were all right, but I spend so many hours on the computer that I was getting all squinty, and the computer screen was getting closer and closer and closer to me, which apparently is not good for you. Good morning, Kerry. Tess says Guardians of the Watchtower, only because that's how I remember, learnt it from books. I think it sticks, doesn't it? With whatever you're first introduced to tends to be what sticks. There's no right or wrong here. It's just one of the different terms for them. Good morning, Carol. But essentially, we are calling in earth, air, fire, water, the 4 elements, to lend their energy to the ritual. Not necessarily in the basic form of the 4 elements. It could be members of the fairy world. It could be elementals. It could be dragons. It could be animals. There's lots of different ways of bringing those 4 elements in, but essentially you're working with earth, air, fire, and water, which are obviously associated with the 4 compass directions. Interesting question now. Earth, air, fire, water, north, east, south, west. Does anybody work with the elements at different directions, if that makes sense? Now, I work with north as earth, east as air, south as fire, and west as water. And again, that's how I was taught. That was how I started. Tends to be the general in pretty much all of the rituals that I've been to. But I did go to a shamanic workshop once where we worked with the elements at different positions of the compass, and it threw me completely. I kept getting lost because they were at different directions. But I know there are some traditions and some cultures that do work with them at different directions. Again, no right or wrong. Let's get some of these up. Oh. Nita, love circle casting with my lovelies in our circle of the crystal moon. Yes, I call the guardians of the watchtower and the elements. Do change it slightly each time. Sue, I've actually heard them called there, and there. Says it, does it? Karen, depends on the situation, but usually the elements and guardians of the directions, spirit and goddess and god, sometimes wolves if it's family or protection. Yep. Jane, I just address them as guardians of the north, east, etc. Yeah, they know who they are. Sometimes I go a bit flowery and add gnomes, sylphs, salamanders, and undines, but I'm not very flowery lately. Now that's elementals. Actually, it's interesting you call them flowery. I wouldn't call the elementals flowery at all. I think they are raw power. I think they are very primordial. Is that the right word? That'd be the word for today. Sephora, can you do a non-directional one? Gets confusing from southern hemisphere. See, north is sun for us, south is cold. So I guess earth. I think this is it. I think this is, it has to work for you. So I think you can move it around a bit. So if we just work with the elements rather than the directions, then we'll cover it for everyone. I think I mentioned when we were circle casting, we did a ritual down by the beach, and the compass directions showed us where north was, where, but actually west wasn't the side that had the ocean on it. So we actually changed it round and ignored the compass and went with west as being the side that had the ocean on it. So I don't think you're going to get struck with lightning if you don't follow the compass. Maria always forgets them. Never eat shredded wheat. North, east, south, west. Nita does the same. Helen calls in the archangels, but each represent the elements, so really do the same. Yeah, it is essentially we're calling in the elements. Christine, 4 elementals and Encartia spirit. Yeah, we got five elements really, isn't there, including spirit. Good morning, Denise. Kerry, I'm a priestess of Avalon and we work with the directions differently. North as air, east as fire, south as water, and west as earth. Interesting. Yeah, I have, I do work myself with an Avalonian tradition, but that works with the, I'm going to call it standard because it tends to be the one that most people work with. But that is different, Kerry. It's, there's no right or wrong. It is what you're taught. It is what you work with. And there will always be reasons for it. I guess it boils down to what the elements actually are. Good morning, Xenia. Karen, if I'm calling a circle to protect the land from development, I call in the elementals by names and the genius loci to help us save the land. Absolutely. Nita, like the idea of archangels. It works just as well. Called the guardians of the watchtower sometimes tends to be more Wiccan, but they are the guardians of the elements. They actually share the characteristics of the elements they're associated with. Guardians of the watchtowers aren't gods, but they are otherworldly. You can call on dragons. I've done that quite a lot. We invite dragon energy into each quarter, or you could call upon the archangels if you work with archangels. I don't myself, but it works. You might choose to call in the energy of animals to represent each quarter, and we've done that quite often. You would have, dolphin for west and eagle for east. You tie them in with their characteristics, which works really nice. But essentially, you're working with the characteristics of those elements. Now, I think of earth as grounding, stability, home and hearth, material things. Air to me is intellect, it's intuition, it's inspiration. Fire is to me passion, creativity, energy, power. And then water is emotions, all about the emotions and going with the flow. General ideas about what the elements are and what they represent. Sue did actually attend a ritual where the young lady called East, which in fact was West. When she was corrected, she said, "If I want to do it this way, I will." Okay. I think when you're actually in a group ritual, you really need to go with what works for the group. But, hey, good on her for being individual. Because we connected with animals with the quarters when we did our hand fasting. And you know that I did know that, and it works brilliantly. I love working with I love animal magic, so I love working with the spirit and the energy of animals for the quarters. It works brilliantly for me. Lani, I feel drawn to elements and directions, sometimes both or either, depending on the ritual or work that I'm doing. Yeah, it does kind of depend on what you're doing, what ritual you're working with. We did a fairy ritual at Midsummer once. We did a Kitchen Witch open ritual, and so we called on beings from the fairy world at each different compass point as well. Good morning, Leslie Ann. We take east, south, west, north off the planet altogether and reach out toward fixed stars. Love it. Call on mighty ones, powers of elements, mighty dead and unborn, and spirits of place. Brilliant. Absolutely love that idea. Yeah, whatever works kind of thing. Whatever works. And it's interesting to see how different it's done. Everyone's got their own take on it. Xenia, call the elements as such, and also the guardians of the watchtowers. Depends on my mood. Guardians of the watchtowers manifest them quicker for me, and I need less to no visualizing. Yeah, it's got to work for you. Has got to work for you, absolutely. We did write a dragon ritual for Kitchen Witch. We were going to have an open ritual, calling in the dragons, and we called in 4 elemental dragons. And then we're calling in on a chaos dragon, which is where it all went horribly wrong. Because we added the element of chaos, the ritual never happened. I think it was cancelled twice, and then COVID happened. So there's a dragon ritual script written, tucked away in our archives, because that chaos dragon caused so much trouble. So you do have to be careful on who you call upon. Just bear it in mind. Jane, some people generally get confused between left and right, so why not east and west? Yeah, it happens. Timothy, within Druidry we use, yes, it tends to be animal quite a lot, doesn't it, with Druidry? Hawk of Dawn, Stag of the Wild Chase, Salmon of Wisdom, and the Great Bear of the Starry Heavens. It's brilliant. I've been to many Druid rituals where we've done that, and it's been fantastic. Love reading what other people use. Yeah, that point of today really is to share ideas as well, which is brilliant. Have also used the Elemental Kings. Yes, that works really well as well. That is an interesting question, Timothy. Do we call elementals to face in and protect and honor the circle, or face out? It's one of the things I've noted down actually. When I've been to lots of open rituals, whenever we've called in the elements, the whole circle turns to face that direction. What we did find was that if the person calling the quarter didn't have a particularly loud voice, if everybody suddenly turns away from you, you can't hear what they're saying. And I love that everybody turns towards the direction to call them. But we have found that it works actually better if everybody stays facing inwards towards the circle, center of the circle, purely for acoustic purposes. Because if you're all facing inwards, you can hear the quarter call. So from a purely practical acoustic point of view, we do tend to get our guys to sort of face inwards to the circle, just because so you can hear people. Xenia learned air east, fire south, water west, earth north. Yeah, that's how I work with it. From which books? Much later discovered air north, fire east, water south, earth west in a shamanic tradition. Yes, that's how I worked with it in the shamanic workshop that I went to and also worked with them. Works both for me, and the associations also make both sense to me. I think that's what you've got to go with, haven't you? If the association makes sense to you, then it's the right way to go. If you are calling in that energy to your circle, you need to be calling in an energy that you recognize and for the right reasons. So if you are calling in Earth for the purpose of stability, it has to have that connection for you. So it's got to work for you. Sephora, sorry. Yeah. Please explain the reason from a ritual reason for beginners, why you call the quarters. Is it power, protection, ritual? It is about the four elements are, if you include the fifth, it makes the pentagram. Pentagram. One's without the circle, one's with. It is about bringing in those foundations of the elements. It's about inviting their energy to join you in circle. So when you're calling a quarter, so if you are calling the energy of Earth, you are calling the energy of Earth to come into your circle and to lend stability and protection and their power to your ritual. When you're calling in fire, you are asking the energy of fire to bring passion and creativity to your ritual. You're basically asking all those elements to come in and lend their characteristics, their personality, their power to your energy. It brings in the balance if you invite all four in. We have worked with rituals where we've just called on one. If we've been doing an earth ritual, we've called in just earth. If we've been doing a water ritual, we've called in just water. I think it works personally better if you bring in all four because it gives you the balance. And of course, spirit, the fifth element, ties it all together. I have to be careful there. I always want to say fifth elephant. It's a Terry Pratchett thing. Hopefully that explains it for it. It is about bringing in those energies, their powers, their characteristics to lend that energy to your ritual. The same way we work with any of the elements really is to draw on their particular characteristics. So I've been to many rituals where I've heard not a thing. They all become, guess what part we're doing now? Yes, which is why we changed it so that people don't face away from the speaker, particularly if you're doing a ritual on top of a windy hill or a very windy seafront, because the wind carries your voice away. Sometimes you have to do things because they're practical. Good morning, Francis. In many groups, members will reach up towards the direction. I find I cannot do this. Reminds me too much of, yes, evangelical church experiences. Hallelujah. Hope the elements aren't offended by my lack of physical demonstration. I'm sure they're not. Karen, do you think it might stem from where we are in the globe? Big body of water to the west of us in Britain and fire to the south, the equator. Could we? I've never thought about it, Karen. As I live, I'm actually on an island. I'm on Portsea Island, which is surrounded by water. So yeah, it may well do. Timothy, the medieval mystic Paracelsus, does sound like a Harry Potter character, was the first geezer to write about it and give associations to the quarters. It's historic. It is historic. And then it was taken from there and used within ceremonial magic, which then became Masonic and then moved into modern paganism today over many, many, many years. Correct me if I'm wrong. No, I don't think you are, Timothy. I think you are absolutely spot on. Maria, could spirit be called in first? I tend to think of the circle as being the spirit element. Anybody got any thoughts on that? Because with the pentagram, you wouldn't think I've been doing this for 30 years, would you? With the pentagram, the 5-pointed star, each point is one of the elements. But the circle, to me, that makes it into a pentacle, brings it all together. So for me, the fifth element of spirit is the circle, if that makes sense. So I know some people call in ancestors, which possibly could be used as the spirit element as well. We often work with spirit of the place. I always connect with spirit of the place before we start a ritual anyway. But for me, the circle I see as the element of spirit, and that's what you cast first. If anyone's got any different thoughts on that, love to hear them. Tess, agree with the acoustics complications of being a large group when at camp. Usually there are 5 people doing the ritual, and for what I remember, each person calls a quarter from their spot around the circle. Yes. So at least we hear one of the calls in full. Yeah. I think also before they've done it, with the one person moving around the circle, both works as whole group turnout. Yeah, I think in the practical sides of it, sometimes you have to adjust it a bit. Angela, we usually use the standard north, south, east, west, but our land garden feels very different. Our water pond is and feels right in the east and air in the west. No idea why, but it just feels right. There you go. You've got to go with it. Your intuition will never let you down. Yeah, absolutely. Leslie Ann, the calling up we find raises that elemental power in us, as well as bringing the other realms to conscious adjacency to ours. It's interesting, isn't it, that you've mentioned the elemental power in us. I have been to so many rituals where people have just called the quarter and everybody does the whole reply. And I think to myself, I wonder how many of them are actually feeling that element within them. I wonder how many people are just going with the flow, going blah, 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 blah. Yeah, hail and welcome. I think you've hit the point there, Leslie Ann. I think it is so important that people actually feel that energy of that element, as well as casting the circle. If someone's walking and casting the circle and you're part of that circle, you've got to see and feel that circle being drawn. And with the elements, you've got to feel that energy. It's not just about doing your hail and welcome reply when they invite it in. You've got to feel it, because otherwise you're kind of missing the point, aren't you? I think. Yeah. Good morning, Leslie. Everybody's jumping up. Andrea, use the standard directions, but I always start casting from the north. Always felt it as being the right direction. Another interesting point. Where do you start from? Now, most of the Wicca, most of the witchcraft rituals that I've been to, and generally we tend to do it with the kitchen witch ones, we start by calling north first, and then we go clockwise. Obviously anti-clockwise to uncall them, or bugger offs as we call them in kitchen witch. We start with the north, east, south, west. Most of the Druid rituals that I have been to or been a part of, they call east first, and it makes sense because the sun rises in the east, so they start by calling the east, by welcoming in the sun in the east. So that's where they start. Again, interesting to see what you guys think. I think again, it's got to work for you. Helen, sometimes I raise a pillar of light in the center of the circle, and this is spirit for me. See, we do, whenever you're working a ritual, the idea is for some point, some particular purpose. And we do raise energy. We raise the cone of power, often for healing or whatever it might be. That energy is raised in the center of circle. Never really thought about it as spirit, though. But hey, if that works, go for it. I'm going to read this. I know it's not to me, but I'm going to read it. Fred Lamond absolutely referred to this in his book 50 Years of Wicca. The elemental directions fit very well to southern England. Well, yes, when he was in the US and worked there, it felt totally different, like they had the huge ocean in the east, and he tended to work accordingly. Call the elements from the directions in which they manifest, like where is the biggest river sea, in which direction are mountains, and from where blows the wind. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Xenia. That is, it makes perfect sense. If you think about the directions perhaps that we are more familiar with come from Wicca, which was written in the southern England, so it carries that kind of connection with it. But I think, yes, you have to adjust it depending on where you are and what you feel, really. Jane, you could think of the pentagram as a pyramid in circle of the 5 elements: north, east, south, west, and up. I think in circle, I think of circle as a sphere anyway. As we talked about in Casting the Circle last week, it's not really a circle, it's a sphere. But yeah, it has to work. Good morning, Hayley. Christine, Encarcia is the light and life force that I invite in, as above, so below. Absolutely. Perfect. Angela, interesting about using points of pentagram as the places for the elements. As our land is shaped like a pentagram, maybe that's why the elemental places appear off. Each point of the pentagram represents one of the elements. And in fact, it is a way that you can call in the quarters. By invoking the pentagram, drawing the pentagram in the air, and you start at a different point for each different particular element. There will be a brief moment while coffee's delivered. Thank you.
Coffee introducing itself.
It's coffee introducing itself. Yes, it is one way of inviting the quarters in, is by drawing the pentagram in the air, and you start at a different point. That's the postman.
And the dog.
Claire starts in the north, Helen starts in the east. Yeah, it's, Jane says in Cranian Wicca we call west first, but the element directions are different. Yeah, Jane, it's whatever works with your tradition. Different traditions have different. Interesting that you have different elements at different points of the compass. Are the characteristics of the elements the same? So, for instance, earth, stability, grounding to me, fire, passion, creativity. Do you still associate those characteristics with those elements? Interesting question. Angela, we are about to renew our boundary protection, so we may explore this in the process. Absolutely. Jane, I have a problem with fire being in the south. I can imagine the Thames bubbling and boiling away to nothing. Well, it's a beautiful brown colour. Maybe it should be earth. Maria wants to know where her tea is. No, you can't get the staff these days, Maria. It's just shocking. Eric, yes, there's Eric barking at the postman. Tess, although if you live in Devon or further south, London would be north. It's interesting, isn't it? Perhaps we do need to throw away the compass directions and just work with the elements. No, it's Xenia Glorious coffee. It is London New Tropics coffee. It's got all sorts of superfoods in it as well. It's lovely. It tastes like hot chocolate. Francis, I think if you are using animals, it works better if they are native to where you are casting your circle. Interesting. Calling on buffalo and coyote doesn't feel right in England. I wonder, do people in the Southern Hemisphere choose different animal guides? That would make sense to me. It is interesting with animal guides. I think you have to be open to whatever comes to you. Animal magic is a whole different subject. I'm just thinking about my own animal guides. Wild boar is my main one, but I work with seagull, I work with pigeon. I do work with a black panther for otherworld travel, but generally in my Akashic records, I work with a black Labrador, so most of mine are relevant to the UK. I did have a student once that worked with a T-Rex as a spirit animal guide. Don't get those many anymore. Interesting thought. I'm just thinking about the Druidic tradition that was mentioned earlier about calling in the different animals. Interesting. What do people think? do people think about that? It actually makes quite a lot of sense to me. It does make a lot of sense, Francis. Interesting to see what people think about it. Interestingly, actually thinking about the Druids, a lot of the Druid rituals that I've been to, they actually call for peace in the quarters. So someone will walk to each cardinal point and state out loud, "Let there be peace in the east," to which the others within the circle reply, "There is peace in the east." And then they move on to the next direction and give the call again, "Let there be peace in the south." And actually, the dog needs his blanket sorting. I actually think that is a beautiful idea. Definitely. And again, how do you call the quarters? I mentioned Hail and Welcome because that's kind of the traditional Wiccan thing. You do your "we invite the element of earth to join us for a circle to bring the power of stability and grounding, hail and welcome." And everyone replies "hail and welcome." Actually, within Kitchen Witch, we did drop the hail and welcome a while back because we aren't Wiccan. We do tend now just to say something like "we welcome you," because it felt more natural to us. But again, has to work for you. Maria, can you imagine calling in the Fae and other elementals? We have done. We did do a fairy ritual at Midsummer. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be very careful to ask them to leave afterwards. Oh, Christine, he does. Eric has incredibly well behaved. If you don't straighten his blanket, he won't jump up into the chair and he'll sit there and whine at it. Xenia, I think animal spirit guides to come to people and choose them, not the other way around. Absolutely agree. Some people are surprised when animal shows up. Again, absolutely. Some people are really disappointed when the ant shows up and I instead of the wolf, and I have to reassure them the ant is just as powerful as the wolf. Not always the one they wish for. And yes, in other parts of the earth, it can be animals who are native there, or a T-Rex. Yeah, maybe we should have a dinosaur ritual. Cause makes sense to me, but equally, some of your connections could be due to past lives. Interesting. So if you lived somewhere else in the past, maybe you would feel connection to a critter that isn't local to where you are in this life. Yeah, I think it is a bit like deities, the same thing. You don't necessarily choose them. Spirit guides come to you. Deity comes to you. But if you are writing a ritual and you want to call in animals for each quarter, then does it make sense to call in ones that are native to where you live? Good question. Angela, my hubby, also Peter, a lot of them about. Animal guide is a wild boar. We were blessed recently to see a little family of them trot through the bottom of the garden. Oh, fantastic. Or the little humbug piglets. Wild boar has walked with me for many, many years. He's very patient. Sephora, we've got a lot of animals, same as Northern Hemisphere, just less bitey ones in New Zealand. No foxes. Interesting. Although I was totally surprised recently to find out that Americans don't have hedgehogs. But, either. How do you call them in? We've done all sorts of things in Kitchen Witch. We've had different flavoured cookies to call in each quarter. Everyone's had a different cookie with a different flavour that represents each element. We've had different herbal teas, flavours that represent each different element. We even had ribbons once. I think we had a central point and I took a ribbon out to each quarter and someone held it and then we joined all the ribbons together. There are some quite inventive ways of doing it. Say that the Wiccans and ceremonial rituals often draw the pentagram, invoking pentagram, using 5 strokes or lines, depending on what element you're invoking. You decide where you start drawing. Works well. You could light candles each quarter as you call it. You could light a candle. You can place objects in each point. So I would put a bowl of salt for North Earth, a bowl of water for water. a candle for fire, and incense probably for air, or even a feather, something like that. There's lots of different ways of working with it. Any thoughts from you guys? How do you actually call in your quarters? Kerry, good morning from Clenelly, on our way to Artemis Gathering. Come and say hello, Kerry. Myself and the girls will be there. Xenia, great idea. Cookies and teas. We did. We actually went round the circle and gave everyone, okay, here is your earth cookie. Here is your water cookie. We've also done it in big circles where we've actually gone around the circle and said, right, we're inviting in the element of earth and getting each person to say a word that they associate with that element. And as you go around the circle, it raises the energy and invites that element in. So the first person might say soil, the next person might say grounding, the next one might say stability, and you go around the circle and each person says what that element means to them. And that's quite an interesting way of doing it in a group to get everyone involved. Directions make me nervous. Flashbacks to learning to drive your other. If you're in a big open group, it is helpful to have markers for the quarters. We had big pebbles painted with the each element on, and we placed them. Although when we did it at one ritual, we had pictures of different cakes at each quarter relevant to their ingredients. Jane, St. Patrick got rid of all the snakes in Ireland. I heard he likened them to pagans. There's a whole story behind that. I would recommend you reading, if you're interested in the actual truth behind St. Patrick, have a look at Morgan Daimler's blog on St. Patrick. It's interesting. So yes, each crystal is represented by a different element. So you could have crystals at each one. Francis, one of the reasons I moved to England was for the hedgehogs. I do love a hedge pig. They are absolutely brilliant. Sephora, hedgehogs made it to New Zealand. How did they miss America? I have no idea. I was quite surprised. Angela, just a thought. If one were to call the 5 points of the pentagram, would one still say we were calling the quarters? When you actually invoke pentagram, you start with the point that represents the element. So as you draw it slightly from start drawing it from a different point for each element that you call in. Yes, Angela's here all week. Tess, I like the use of physical objects, so yes, sometimes use water, salt, candle as a representation. I think it is really useful and really helpful if you work with visual aids, particularly, and to have something that represents that element at that point. And I think it's really useful in a group ritual. Leslie Ann, see you next weekend, Leslie Ann. Look forward to it. Erin, I recently started using small jars for each element filled with crystal chips and something connected to the element. Example, salt for earth. I also have animals painted on the jars for the spirit I call in the element. Brilliant idea. That's a fantastic idea, Erin. I love that. Jane, in America they have groundhogs. No one's thought to plant a hedge yet. Yeah, we don't have groundhogs, to be fair. Although we have badgers and Americans have badgers, but they look very different. I did see a meme once. It said, English badgers look like they're going to invite you out for afternoon tea. American badgers look like they're going to challenge you to a knife fight. They do look quite different. But anyway, I think it has to work for you, and I think it's different whether you are perhaps in your own personal ritual or in a smaller group or in an open ritual. I think it has to work. I think it has to work in the situation that you are in. As I say, when we were at the beach, we moved the compass around completely so that west was the side that had the ocean on it because it made sense. Tess, I'll come and find you at Artemis. Please do, for our tea tasting and cake session. Oh, I'm there for that, Tess. Count me in for that, absolutely. Hi, Hayley. I use the elements, call them in, and use them each to actually draw the circle. And I feel this adds another layer. Interesting, Hayley. Share more information. I like the idea of calling them in to use them to draw the circle. Brilliant. Zephora, what are solitaries likely to use? Well, I think if you're in a smaller kind of ritual, and perhaps in your own back garden or your own living room, you're very familiar with the area. You're very familiar with the place. And it will also depend how much area you have. And I know that this wall here beside me is north. And so everything that I work within the house or within the garden, that's always north, because I know that's the compass direction and it feels right to me. So I work without necessarily putting anything at the points, because I know where they are. I'm familiar with the area. I'm familiar with the space. If I am working an important ritual and I want to be a bit more ceremonial, then I tend to put candles. But again, it's a very personal thing. It has to work for you. I think you do. When we work with our group rituals, we have also called in often 4 deities. Now, I know that's not usual. Hey, we're Kitchen Witch. We're never usual. So you could work with 4 deities, each one representative of an element. That works really well as well, as long as they kind of get on with each other. You have to be careful about personalities. Christine, in the medicine wheel I used to go to regularly, each person brought something that meant the most to them and placed them at the large stones. Some had jars of water, others feathers, but as it was a circle, it was more to do with the energy of the person that stands at the large stones. Very interesting what people put into the circle, as a lot of intonation people attended. International, I'm assuming that means. Medicine wheels are fascinating to work with. We do a bit of that work within Kitchen Witch. And we work a lot with the compass directions and the elements within the medicine wheel as well. Very interesting to do. Jane, referring to Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Everything, you could build a veritable mountain of relevant things at each cardinal point. Exactly. I'd like to throw my own books in there too. My Kitchen Witch's World of Magical Herbs and Plants has all of the element correspondences as well, as does Kitchen Witch's World of Magical Food. That has all of the element correspondences as well, because not only do plants and trees have elements associated with them, so do all of the food ingredients. And so do all of the crystals. My crystal book has all of the element correspondences as well. They have all got those element correspondences. So you could build a whole... I worked with earth recently. If you look on my Facebook page, you will see a picture of my earth altar. And that has all sorts of things on it that are relevant, or connected, or correspond to the element of earth. And there's all sorts of things within the natural world and within the unnatural world that are associated with each element, definitely. Tess says, what's a medicine wheel? Is that a whole talk? It's a whole talk, Tess. We do teach about it at Kitchen Witch. Yes, it's definitely a whole talk. That's for sure. It is a shamanic type of practice from various different cultures have a similar thing. We do a kind of witchy version of it. But I think ultimately, like most of these things, they have to work for you, and they have to work in the space that you're in. Interesting, actually, when a question to you, do you think that you have to have a rhyme to call in the quarters when you invite the elements in? Does your invitation have to rhyme? Do you just use a sentence? I invite the element of earth in. Do you all use hail and welcome? Do you use something else? Again, no right or wrong here, just interesting to see what everybody uses. There are, obviously, we mentioned elementals. and that would be the gnomes, the sylphs, the salamanders, the undines, who are gnomes are earth, sylphs are air, salamanders are fire, undines are water. The elementals also have a hierarchy, so there are kings as well. They are powerful beings, and they are a whole talk on their own as well. Actually, I am running an online workshop for the College of Psychic Studies where we're going to cover elementals and nature spirits as well. But the elementals are powerful beings, for want of a better word. They are the characteristic of each of the elements. They are the raw power of them. More undefined, I think. And I think that is, they're interesting ones to work with. Really different kind of energy to work with. Tess. I like the rhyme, easier to remember. Solitary, so changes, depends on how I feel. Angela, don't often use a rhyme, but there are times when it makes it easier to remember. Lani, I tried to rhyme once and sounded like an old woman trying to rap. There is that. I don't think there's any right or wrong here. I think it's interesting. I've been writing about spell work recently, and that kind of made me think, rhymes. Do you have more focus with a rhyme? Do you have more power with a rhyme? I don't think there's any right or wrong. I don't tend to do it myself with the quarter calls. I do tend to keep it fairly simple, fairly basic. I invite the element in, and I might ask for specific characteristics. Hayley, I like to welcome but hesitant to say thank you when I finished, as somewhere I heard it might cause offence, especially with elementals. It's the fairies. Fairies don't understand the concept of thank you. It doesn't mean anything to them. Definitely thank deity, thank the elements, that's no problem. But the fairy world, thank you means nothing to them. They like gifts. And I don't blame them. They like presents. Words mean nothing. So yes, thank them for being there. But not fairies. Fairies it means nothing to them. Karen doesn't use rhyme. Karen, I address the direction, call on the element, and ask for the energy of that element. No rhymes. I prefer to keep it short. Yeah, there's just no. Everyone's asking for cake now. Xenia, I use the phrases that come from my heart at the moment. I had written poetic texts for the calling that sounded beautiful, but found out that pre-made texts don't work for me. I can't at the same time focus on the poetry and visualized feeling, but I think rhymes and poetic texts for the calling are great for group rituals where one person speaks and the others are listening. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. But again, I think you've hit on the same as Leslie Ann about feeling it. So many people don't actually feel that energy. We've done rituals where we've described each element, and that actually works really well, particularly if you're new to it. So you would invite in the element of earth, and then you would describe rolling hills, the cool rock of the mountains, the warm, lush feeling of freshly turned soil, just so that you get that kind of visualization, but also feel the energy. When you invite in fire, you need to feel the heat of those flames. When you invite in water, you need to feel the sea, you need to feel the salt air on your face. You need to feel and hear the crashing of the waves. Otherwise, you're not joining in with the whole experience of it. You're just reading words or saying hello and welcome to words. The whole point is to feel the energy from each of those elements, to get it to add to your experience and to your ritual. Jane, I use rhymes for spells and just talk to the elementals. We wouldn't welcome the Avon lady or the postman with poetry after all. Or perhaps we should. They might like it. No, that makes sense. that does make sense, Jane. Yeah, I think for spells, I think, yes, that makes sense. Absolutely. Christine, I was taught that when we rhyme, it adds the extra oomph to the spell, etc. Diddle, riddle, witchy, woo. This is a love spell for all of you. Great fun when you do this, and it brings a laugh too, raising the energy. Yes, yes, I agree with that. For spell working, I think the rhyme does add that extra something to it. And it also adds the fact that you have spent time thinking about it and planning it. Angela, I was once told every time you say thank you or bless you when someone sneezes, a fairy dies. Oh, okay. We say bless you when someone sneezes so that they don't die of the plague. I've not heard that one with fairies. Not heard that one about fairies either. Folklore song, it does make you laugh, doesn't it? Xenia, exactly. In a solo ritual, it also makes total sense to just visualize and feel the energy without getting distracted by speaking, which distracts me a lot. Yeah, an awful lot of the rituals and things that I do at home, if there are people about, I visualize and do a lot of it in my head. So it is a huge amount of visualization, but it is, yeah, you're right. You've got to feel that energy. Jane, I tend to visualize the element approaching and leaving it as something special. Yeah, you have to. I think that's all part of the experience. Lani, I have used the first words that come to me on how I feel at the time and what they mean to me. Words have different meanings to different people. Absolutely. It's all about how we each feel. Absolutely. Xenia, I say hail and welcome after I had done visualizing and feel them. Jane, what a lovely idea, raising energy with laughter. That's all Kitchen Witch does. If you've been to our Kitchen Witch rituals, and I know you have, laughter is key. Laughter is key. Lani loves the cup. Thank you. It's just from Amazon. Oh yeah, absolutely. Laughter is very much about energy. Jane, great marketing campaign for hay fever and allergy pills. Stop killing fairies. Take those pills. They're brilliant. Yeah, let's leave the fairies alone. I think Maria says there's always laughter at the rituals. There always is. Whether we're online or offline, you can guarantee there's always laughter at a Kitchen Witch ritual. And of course, someone mentioned about saying thank you to them. Once you have invited all of the elements into your ritual, do you want them to stay? Do you want them to stay after the ritual? I would advise, if you have worked a fairy ritual and invited them in, you definitely want to make sure that they leave. But I think you do have to say thank you. We spend so much time asking for things. Every spell you work is asking for something. Every time you contact deity and invite them to your ritual, you're asking them to come to your ritual and do stuff. When you invite the elements in, you are asking them to come to your ritual and do stuff. So it only makes sense and good manners to say thank you. So I think it's really important to thank deity and to thank the elements for being a part of your ritual, to lending their energy to your ritual, and just thanking them and allowing them, thanks. You can go on your way now. Very kind of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for lending us the energy, but bugger off in a polite way. So I think it is important to also remember your manners as well and to say thank you and to release them as well, really. Leslie Ann, in situations and countries where it wouldn't be wise to call aloud, the use of element-specific hand gestures, mantras, etc. can be good. Yes, that's where the invoking the pentagrams would work. You could also use the triangle symbols for the elements with your hands as well to call them in. Yeah, definitely, because it isn't always possible to shout these things out loud. Gratitude is the attitude. Thank you, Seti. I like that. Yeah, I think it is. We're all about asking for stuff and calling in people and things and energy to do stuff for us. So it's only polite to say thank you and to release them, for want of a better word, as well. Xenia, nope, I want the elements to leave after. Like, I don't want unattended fire or water energy in my house afterwards. Of course, I say thank you and say goodbye politely. Yes, you do need to ask them to leave. Thanks very much for being here, but you can go. Sephora, 5 fingers, 5 elements. Interesting. Yeah, there are various hand signals that you can do that represent the elements. That would be interesting to do, wouldn't it? A whole ritual, just silently, but with hand signals. Interesting. Don't, my brain has enough brain weasels as it is.
Yeah, please don't,
don't give me anything else to think about. I'm trying to write a book at the minute. Like, I'm always trying to write a book, but I'm up against a deadline with this one, and yeah, too much going on. All other stuff keeps coming in, bombarding me. Seti says, think it's awesome to celebrate or give offerings to elements and gods without asking for things to do. Absolutely. I quite regularly will do a gratitude ritual just to say thank you to deity, to gods, to whatever, for everything, because we do ask for so much. And I also think after a ritual, it's good to do an offering. Whenever we do open rituals, we always pour some of the drink onto the ground. It's us. It's usually hot chocolate or herbal tea, but we pour that onto the ground. And cake or cookies. We also crumble some of that. And that's a real offering, because that's a sacrifice, which is what an offering should be. An offering should be a sacrifice. It should hurt you to give it. So I crumble cake or cookie onto the ground as an offering, as a thank you to the land, to the energy, to the gods, to the spirits, to the elements. It's always polite to make an offering of thanks afterwards for whatever it is you have asked them to do. Christine, I went to a rite once where the leader said, leave the elements open and he would close it afterwards on his own. It felt totally wrong to me and I worried about it for ages afterwards. I would too. We did a slightly different kitchen witch open ritual once, which was all kind of out of order and that kind of thing. And all of us felt really weird and out of place for ages afterwards. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. Maria, you could just point at the direction instead of speaking and then join them in a circle. I think it's quite an interesting concept, isn't it? Angela, our former high priestess, used to invite the guardians of the watchtowers and then dismiss them at the end. The way she did it, I found incredibly disrespectful. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I've seen a lot of things where the elements are treated as minions, for want of a better word. Get into my ritual and I dismiss you now that you're gone. No, to me, that doesn't work. You've got to have respect. The elements are powerful, and I think it should be done with respect, absolutely. Karen, working with the Fae, I leave a gift like bird food, milk in appreciation for their help, but I also send them healing all the time for when they need it and say if I need to do something for the land or the creatures, may I know. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Karen, I go into my garden every morning to give gratitude, so thanks to each of the elements. It's the only exercise I get these days, and that is a perfect way of doing it. Perfect. I go into my garden every morning and connect with the energy that's out there. I think it's really important. Jane, I do a gratitude list every night after I've balanced my chakras and before I go to sleep. It's important to remember the things that have been positive in our day. I love that idea, Jane. It's a beautiful idea. Karen, I also play my flute for the elementals, and I've heard and seen Karen's flute, and that is beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So I think, we've gone way over an hour again. I think it is important to be respectful, always, whether it's deity, elements, elementals, fairies, whatever it might be. I think it is important to be respectful. Seti is right there. though I don't agree there's a history of demanding beings or binding them to your will within Solomonic and Egyptian history. No, I wouldn't either. There's a practice of binding spirits into objects as well, which to me is totally wrong. But everyone, each to their own. But yeah, I wouldn't. Leslie Ann, often think patience and gratitude are all we need. Absolutely. And we invoke, then devoke, rather than invoke and then banish. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It is about having respect. And yes, gratitude, definitely, about thanks. So, these guys are lending us their energy, their patience, their understanding, their support. They're giving that to us at our request. So it's only fair and polite that you say thank you for it. Jane's got to release the red goblin from my marble egg. Evil. Everyone has their own practice. Everyone must be comfortable in what you do. Ultimately, you need to take responsibility for whatever you put out there. Every action, every word, whatever it is that you're doing, take responsibility for it. And mind your manners. Just, gratitude and respect, really. But thank you, everyone, for today. It's been absolutely fantastic, as always. I love these chats. I learn stuff. Hopefully you guys learn stuff. It's brilliant to share how we each do things and find out how other people do it as well. All interesting stuff. I should be here next Friday. I don't know what time we're leaving for the Artemis gathering, so watch this space to see whether I'm here or not this week. If I'm not here next week, I'll be here the week after. Looking forward to meeting anybody that's going to be at the Artemis gathering. But as always, thank you, everyone. Jane, I've replied to your homework email this morning. Oh, right, okay, send again. I'll have a look in a second. Everyone for joining me. Have a fantastic weekend. Mind your manners and be nice to the elements. Take care, everyone.